Welcome back to another episode of I Suck at Writing. Not a whole lot of fan feedback this week, so we're just gonna hop right into the episode. But before we do that, there's a couple things to get out of the way. Damn, that sun is bright. So instead of having only the pages that are talked about in the episode included each week, I'm just gonna go ahead and link the full script. So the full 38 pages of the Fiction of Deities will be linked in every single episode in the description below. Personally, I don't think I'm a good enough writer yet for people to understand my work bit by bit, so I think having that as a constant reference will do everybody a lot of favors. Second, I have been raked over the coals for my parentheticals in this script. For those of you who don't know, parentheticals are the parentheses that are put above dialogue in a screenplay. They're used to describe who somebody is talking to or maybe a change of volume in somebody's voice. We went over it in the last episode, but I got roasted for it yet again. So for the rest of the script and the full screenplay that I am linking below, I have just gone through and deleted parentheticals as a whole. Upon the rewrite, I will fix them, but apparently I did it so bad I thought I would just nuke the whole thing. Which brings us to our only feedback this week from La Pata Gone. Reads well to me. Probably double check the parentheticals. Shouting. Torm is approaching him, so we can infer he's raising his voice. Maybe go for even louder, since that's what he wants to get his attention. To himself should be all lowercase. Eagerly to Torm can be eagerly. It's just the two of them in the room. Cutting Alvus off. He's cutting Torm off, and you could cut it anyways, since Torm's dialogue ended with, down here. That means an interruption. While coloring. Was already established at the beginning of the scene. I didn't mind the rest since Alvus's mood swings pretty wildly, so I feel like they're necessary to portray it, but do try to keep them at a minimum. I love the criticism with the most logic. Eagerly to Torm can be eagerly, it's just the two of them in the room. That makes a lot of sense. There are a few grammatical and continuity errors as far as the pilot goes. It's not perfect and it's not something I would put in a competition, so I'll just have to live with that criticism since I didn't cross my T's and dot my I's. Nonetheless, this was an example of great constructive criticism and you also left great advice in the process. I'm leaving this episode knowing how to use parentheticals correctly, so I say that's a win. That is the whole point of all this, Lapata. Thanks for giving me something to talk about. I also find another win as a writer from the last tidbit of your comment. I use so many parentheticals in this script because of Alvus's mood swings, and to see you mention that gives me this much happiness. Thank you guys so much for sticking with it, and thank you so much for giving me community feedback this week. I have grown exponentially in a month. Enjoy the third episode this week. Try and check out the full length of that script. I'll still be going over 2 to 3 pages at a time, but if you want to read behind or if you want to read ahead, please do so, and I think that'll make everything a lot easier. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ISawChannel. Please subscribe, and thanks again so much for watching. Alright, we are here with pages 6 and 7 today. Last episode was very Torm and Alvus dynamic heavy. We got to see how these characters interact and what they mean to each other. We left off with Alvus asking Torm politely to throw him out a window onto the workers that were cleaning up the worker that he killed before. So we get the idea that Torm is kind of a universal, lifelong servant to Alvus. Alvus is special. He's practically a demigod. He's going to have some servants around. I was going to have a big reveal with Torm getting thrown out the window, but my page cut kind of gave it away here. So let's get into page 6. Torm is thrown out the window, grabbing at the air in a free fall. He splats next to the workers that are almost done cleaning up the mess from the dead trainer. Alvus is filled with butt-gusting, sadistic laughter. Torm lies agonized in a bloody mess. A green energy covers him, and he is healed back to 100% health. Alvus levitates Torm all the way back up to the office and drops him in a chair across from him. Thank you for the laugh, Torm. How do you like my drawing? It's terrible. It's great. Alvus turns fiercely angry again. I should have left you dead for lying to me so poorly. Now please, bore the shit out of me with whatever news you have from the Modessa. Alvus pulls a cigar-sized blunt out of the desk and uses his powers to light it up. Torm gathers himself to deliver information. Carma and Tope are missing, but sightings show their abilities have increased over tenfold. Alvus shows concern and nervously starts to smoke out the room with colorful clouds. I knew it. I felt their presence in my bones lately. What do you have for me? So big freaking plot twist, Alvus throws Torm out the window. Torm seems to be extremely valuable to Alvus. I put this in here to also add another aspect to Alvus, showing that Torm is somebody that's probably very valuable to him, yet he would throw him out of a window just for his pleasure. And this isn't out a first-story window. Torm hits hard and splats next to the workers. So he obviously has no regard for his life, and has a gut-busting, sadistic laugh over it. Torm lies agonized in a bloody mess. I intended for this to be a very violent script. Anything that you read, picture everything in your mind. I would like to envision a two-dimensional anime style of violence where it's super exaggerated, super gory, but Alvus isn't all that bad of a guy because a green energy covers Torm and he is healed back to 100% health. Now noted, it's a green energy just like the color of energy that Tope used in the beginning, and that will come up later. We get to see another flex of Alvus's powers. He heals Torm and then he levitates him all the way back up to the office from which he threw him. And once again, proving to the sociopathic tendencies of Alvus, this means nothing to him. He thanks Torm for the laugh, and then he shows him the drawing he was working on from the beginning of the scene. And this next exchange here, where Torm says that his drawing is great and Alvus calls him out on his bullshit, Alvus is one of those people that plays dumb all the time until he doesn't have to. He has a complete beat of what's going on in the room. But if Alvus doesn't feel like doing something, or he feels like being just flat out lazy, he will lie and play dumb. I was also excited for this episode for the amount of plot development we get to share. It's really hard for me to get my point across in the first couple episodes when the script is so grandiose and so fantastical. It's causing the viewers to really use their imagination and really actively think to figure out what's going on in this script. Which that's something that I'll probably try simplifying in the rewrite, but for how the story reads and writes right now, we just flat out don't get very much plot development until pages 6 or 7. Torm says Carma and Tope are missing, but sightings show their abilities have increased over tenfold. This brings us back to the introduction of the script when we saw Carma and Tope showing off their powers, Tope creating a planet, creating life, Carma destroying everything she sees in sight. And for the character of Alvus that we've seen so far, the fearless man, the man who has no regard for anybody, this perks him up and makes him nervous. So we've already seen Alvus sharing powers with one of the girls, which is Tope. Hopefully I've made a good enough point with my writing to show that Alvus, Tope, and Carma have a very strong underlying relationship. Now at this point, Alvus is all ears and sees value in Torm's information. This next page is something that stayed in the script after all the rewrites. Now again, this is a very surreal environment and you'll see a lot of differences in inventions, clothing, and culture. But with it being fantasy and with it being two-dimensional animation, I figured that the sky was the limit with what was involved in the show. The show is complete fiction, but technically it would take place in pre-times, kind of like a Star Wars setting where there's new shit, but it's in the past. Page 7. The Modessa wanted me to show this to you. Torm motions towards the TV and imports a file from his personal device onto the screen. Interior, Alvus's screen. We take the perspective of what both are seeing. Tope demonstrates a highlight reel of her powers of creation and love while flying around her planets. Tope aiding in the good deeds and civilizations, organisms on that planet prospering in family antics and rituals. We slowly come down from Tope's flight to a run-down suburban house with a lot of privacy. We come close on the light coming from the basement window. Fade 2. Interior, musty basement. Buzzing fluorescent lights switch on to a battered man, 40s. He wears a dry, blood-coated paper bag on his head. Multiple footsteps are heard moving in closer. We stay on the man. A door opens in the background. 2 thugs in their 30s walk in with a cocky attitude. Smack. One of them 2 hands slaps the bag covering the man's head, causing him to flinch. Rise and shine, Mr. Chuck. No response. Mr. Chuck whimpers. Me and my colleague here are discharging you from our services today. Yeah, we wouldn't want to keep you longer than we have to. Thug number 2 takes out a phone and starts recording himself and everyone. Thug number 1 pulls the bag off Mr. Chuck, revealing him to be swollen and busted to a pulp. Thug number 1. Whoa! Did you get in a fight, man? He turns and smiles at the camera to emphasize the bad joke. I only wanted to do pages 6 and 7, but I had to dip into a little bit of page 8 to get the point across. But first, Torm references the Modessa. Now remember, the Modessa are the gods of the universe in this series. So Torm has been in contact with the Modessa about Carma and Tope. It seems that the Modessa are working hand in hand with Torm and Alvus in trying to locate them. The Modessa gave a file to Torm to show to Alvus to get Alvus's ass in check and look for the girls a little bit harder instead of playing basketball and killing his workers. Torm imports the file and him and Alvus watch. Now we get a little bit of what we had in the beginning. Tope's demonstrating how good of a person she is, how angelic she is. She is a benevolent god. Anything good you can think of, Tope's energy has a hand in that. This is why I claim the series to be a little bit like mythology. So Alvus and Torm sit watching Tope, and then in a movie-like fashion, they are seeing this on the screen. The Modessa just must have had great cinematography. They pan down into the light coming from a basement on a broken down, run down suburban house with a lot of privacy. We enter into a dark, musty basement. The fluorescent lights switch on and we are revealed to see a battered man. Picture any hostage in any movie. They always got something on their head. They're always bloody. They're always stinky. Then with anticipation, we hear multiple footsteps coming closer and closer. We stay on the man. A door opens in the background. Two bad dudes walk in with a cocky attitude that is nothing that you ever want. That usually means that violence is about to ensue. They smack the vulnerable man with a bag on his head. Rise and shine, Mr. Chuck. His name is revealed, but don't get too attached to him. And we can see how much these guys mean business by Mr. Chuck having no response. If you were in captivity and you thought you were going to make it out, you'd at least try and talk your way out, but Mr. Chuck is past that point. Me and my colleague here are discharging you from our services today. The men tell him that he's getting out of here soon, but then thug number 2 takes out his phone and starts recording him. Whatever that means with getting out. Thug number 1 pulls the bag off his head, revealing how busted up he is. Sure. Whoa, did you get in a fight, man? He turns and smiles at the camera to emphasize the bad joke. I would imagine we can see from the perspective of the person that started recording that thug number 1 turns and hits one of these after a shitty joke. Insult to injury, they say he looks like a pufferfish from how swollen he is, and then thug number 1, showing a little bit of remorse, goes, "We really messed this guy up." So I get how hard it is to orient yourself in this script, and I'm going to have to be way more concise on the rewrite, but we go from an office to a TV screen and then into the complete perspective of being in the basement with these people. So Alvus and Torm are still viewing this and still watching this, but we're just watching what's going on in cinematic detail. And this episode is getting close to ending, but I will read the last little tidbit for a cliffhanger. Thug number 1 touches the wounds. Mr. Chuck winces. In the corner of the basement, Carma is revealed to be watching what's taking place while remaining hidden. She's loving what she's seeing. So with how sadistic of a person we know that Carma is, do you think that she would absolutely love watching an innocent man get tortured? We're starting to see the duality again here. Tope is the good, Carma is the evil. Alvus's mood swings are kind of on par with Carma and Tope's spectrum of personality. And I did this so we got equal attention to both Carma and Tope. I could show Tope being a great person and creating stuff all day, but we have to do our due diligence with Carma and show how much she loves all things evil. So everyone, I'd like to say thank you for watching this week. It's getting better and better every week. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, the whole script is going to be linked in every episode now, so if you want to read behind or read ahead, please feel free to do so, and I feel like it helps you out a lot more. And always, always, always leave a comment and leave criticism. If you got nothing good to say something shitty because it gives me something to say. I appreciate you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ISawChannel. I will see you again next week.